Everybody wants to be strong. Everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to have power, influence, success. But let me tell you something, strength doesn't come from the outside. Strength is built from within. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You can't borrow it. The power you're looking for, the confidence, the resilience, the mindset that refuses to break under pressure, it comes from doing the inner work. And most people don't want to do that. Most people want to skip the process. They want to wake up one day and suddenly be disciplined, be focused, be unstoppable. But that's not how it works. You don't wake up with a strong mind, you build it. And you build it in the moments nobody sees. You build it when you're alone, when you're tired, when you don't feel like it, but you push anyway. That's when strength is forged, not in front of the crowd, not when everybody's watching, but in silence, in solitude, in the grind that nobody claps for. See, people love to talk about success, about being great, about reaching their potential. But when it's time to sit with themselves, when it's time to face their weaknesses, their fears, their past, their habits, they run. They numb themselves with distractions. They drown themselves in noise because they don't want to do the inner work. But let me tell you something. You can't build something real without first laying the foundation. And that foundation is you. That's why people crumble under pressure. That's why they fold when life hits them. Because they spend so much time focusing on the outside, on appearances, on validation, on temporary success, that they never built the strength within. So when the storms come, when the setbacks happen, when life punches them in the mouth, they have nothing to stand on. They weren't built for it. But you're different. You're here because you know there's something more for you. You know you were meant for something greater. And if that's true, if you really believe that, then it's time to start building yourself from the inside out. It starts with your mindset, how you think, how you process adversity, how you respond to setbacks. Because life is going to hit you. It's going to test you. It's going to push you in ways you never expected. And if you don't have that mental toughness, if you don't have that foundation built inside you, you're going to break. That's not a maybe, that's a fact. So let me ask you, what are you doing to strengthen your mind? What are you doing to train yourself to be unshakable? Because if you're not intentional about it, if you're not actively building yourself every single day, you're leaving yourself wide open to be defeated. And listen, I'm not saying this is easy. Doing the inner work is hard. It forces you to face yourself, to acknowledge your flaws, to deal with your past, to break habits that have been holding you back for years. That's why most people don't do it. It's easier to blame others. It's easier to point fingers, to make excuses, to avoid the real work. But the truth is, nobody's coming to save you. If you want to be strong, if you want to be great, if you want to live up to your full potential, you have to take responsibility for building yourself up. You've got to train your mind the way athletes train their bodies. You've got to condition yourself daily. That means guarding what you consume, what you watch, what you listen to, who you surround yourself with. That means challenging yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone, pushing past the limits you thought you had. That means getting uncomfortable, because growth doesn't happen in comfort. Most people never reach their full potential because they refuse to be uncomfortable. They don't want to sit in silence. They don't want to deal with their thoughts. They don't want to put in the work when nobody's watching. But that's exactly where strength is built. In the moments when you could quit, when you could take the easy way out, but you don't. You think the greats got to where they are by accident? You think they just woke up one day with an unstoppable mindset? No, they built it. They put in the work. They did the inner training that nobody talks about. And now it's your turn. So the question is, are you willing to do what most people won't so you can live how most people can't? Because if you really want this, then stop looking outside for strength and start building it within. Because the stronger you are on the inside, the less the outside world can shake you. The reason most people can't see their future clearly isn't because they don't have potential. It's not because they're not capable. It's because they're surrounded by too much noise, too many opinions, too many distractions, too many people pulling them in different directions. And when your mind is constantly flooded with everybody else's thoughts, ideas, and expectations, you lose sight of your own. See, clarity doesn't come from running with the crowd. It doesn't come from listening to what everybody else thinks you should do. Clarity comes in the silence. Clarity comes when you pull away from all the noise and finally sit with yourself long enough to hear your own voice. But most people never do that. They never slow down. They never take a step back. They never give themselves the space to think, to reflect, to ask the real questions that lead to growth. You ever wonder why some people always seem lost? Why they keep jumping from one thing to the next, never fully committing to anything, never making real progress? It's because their minds are too cluttered. They've spent so much time consuming information, comparing themselves to others, seeking validation that they've lost connection with themselves. And if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you stand for, you'll follow anything. That's why I tell people all the time, you need to get comfortable being alone, not lonely. Alone, there's a difference. Being alone means being at peace with yourself. It means learning how to hear your own thoughts without needing to drown them out with music, social media, or constant stimulation. It means getting to a place where you trust your own voice more than you trust the noise of the world. Because listen, the world will always have something to say. Always. People will always have opinions about what you should be doing, how you should be living, what's possible for you. And if you don't take the time to get clear on your own vision, you will spend your entire life reacting to their expectations instead of creating your own reality. You ever notice how easy it is to get caught up in distractions? How one moment you're focused, you're moving in the right direction, and then suddenly you're lost in conversations, caught up in drama, wrapped up in things that have nothing to do with your purpose. That's because you haven't protected your mind. You haven't created the space for clarity. You've allowed too much noise in, and now your vision is blurry. But let me tell you something, when you start spending time in silence, when you start creating space for your thoughts, when you start blocking out the noise, everything changes. Your vision sharpens. Your mind strengthens. You stop moving blindly, hoping things will work out, and you start making intentional decisions that align with your purpose. You've got to start asking yourself, what do I actually want? Not what my parents want. Not what my friends expect. Not what society tells me is possible. What do I want? Because if you never stop to answer that question, you will wake up one day realizing you built a life that doesn't even belong to you. A life that was designed by everyone else except you. And that's a tragedy. See, most people are afraid of silence because silence forces them to face themselves. Silence forces them to deal with the thoughts they've been running from, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities. People who are truly for you will respect your growth. And the ones who don't, they were never really for you anyway. So here's my challenge to you. Find time for silence. Find time for reflection. Create the space for your vision to reveal itself. Because when you finally block out the noise long enough to hear yourself, you will never second guess your direction again. Listen to me, focusing on yourself is not selfish. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to think that if you pull back, if you stop entertaining every distraction, if you choose to work on you instead of pleasing them, you're being selfish. But let me tell you something, it's not selfish, it's necessary. It's strategic. Because the moment you stop giving your energy to the world's chaos and start pouring it into yourself, everything changes. You ever notice how people love to keep you busy with their problems? They'll call you, text you, pull you into their drama. And the second you try to step back, they hit you with, oh, you've changed or you're acting different. Yes, you're supposed to change. You're supposed to act different. You're supposed to grow. But they don't want that. They want you stuck. They want you distracted. They want you so wrapped up in everybody else's mess that you never get the time to fix your own. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat down with yourself? When was the last time you checked in on your own dreams, your own goals, your own purpose? Because let me tell you right now, the second you start making you the priority, the second you start protecting your time, your energy, your mental space, you get stronger. Your mind becomes unshakable. You stop being moved by opinions. You stop being controlled by fear. You stop worrying about who's watching, who's judging, who's gossiping, because none of that builds your future. None of that feeds your destiny. See, the problem is most people are running on empty. They've spent years giving, helping, fixing, supporting everybody but themselves. And now, when it's time to focus on their own lives, they have nothing left. That's why they're exhausted. That's why they feel stuck. That's why they can't break through. Because they've spent so much time building everyone else's dreams that they've forgotten to build their own. But you can't afford to live like that. You can't afford to keep sacrificing your potential just to keep other people comfortable. Let me tell you something, when you start focusing on yourself, people will fall off. That's a guarantee. Not everyone is going to support your growth. Not everyone is going to clap for your discipline. Some people liked you better when you were lost, when you were distracted, when you were available to them 24/7. But that's not your problem. Your problem is making sure you don't stay in the same place this time next year. I hear people all the time saying, I don't have time to work on myself. I don't have time to read, to learn, to improve. But let me tell you something, you have time. You just don't have priorities. Because if I took your phone right now and checked your screen time, I guarantee you've spent hours scrolling, hours watching other people live their dreams while yours sit on hold. That's the truth. And listen, I'm not saying don't support others. I'm not saying don't be there for the people you love. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, when are you going to be there for you? When are you going to start showing up for your own life the way you've been showing up for everyone else's? Because the moment you do, that's when the shift happens. That's when the distractions stop working. That's when the excuses stop making sense. Focus on yourself isn't about shutting people out. It's about finally letting yourself in. It's about recognizing that if you don't develop your mind, if you don't protect your energy, if you don't build yourself up, nobody else will. And if you don't believe in you, who else will? So starting today, I need you to make a decision, a real decision. Are you going to keep living for everybody else, or are you finally going to start living for you? Because the moment you do, your mind will get stronger, your vision will get clearer, and your future will start to unfold in ways you never imagined. You say you want to be great. You say you want to be successful. You say you want to break these generational curses, build something, become something, but every time I see you, you're distracted. Every time I check in, you're caught up in something that has nothing to do with your future. And I get it, the world is loud. Social media is loud. Your friends, your family, your past is all fighting for your attention. But let me tell you something, discipline begins where distraction ends. The people you admire, the ones who are winning, the ones who are making moves, they're not smarter than you. They're not more talented than you. They just locked in. They shut out the noise. They made a decision that their future was more important than their comfort. And until you make that same decision, you're going to keep running in circles, wondering why nothing is changing. You ever notice how easy it is to waste time? How one moment you're just checking your phone real quick, and next thing you know, hours have passed. That's not an accident. These distractions are designed to steal your focus, to keep you entertained just long enough to stop you from building something real. Because as long as you're distracted, you're not a threat. As long as you're busy scrolling, gossiping, procrastinating, you're not growing. And that's exactly what they want. But you don't have time to waste. You don't have the luxury of letting another year slip by because you were too distracted to get serious. Listen to me, everything you want is on the other side of your focus. Every dream, every goal, every breakthrough, it's all waiting for you to get disciplined enough to claim it. But you can't claim it if you're constantly letting distractions pull you away from the work. I see people all the time saying, I'll start tomorrow. I'll get serious next week. I'll lock in next month. But let me tell you something, there is no tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lie you tell yourself to justify step by step. Because when you really want it, when you really decide that you're done playing games, you don't wait, you execute. You don't push it off, you make it happen. And listen, I get it. Focus isn't easy. Discipline isn't easy. It's hard to ignore the noise when everybody around you is distracted. It's hard to lock in when your environment is full of people who aren't trying to grow. But that's the difference between the ones who make it and the ones who don't. The ones who make it, they separate themselves. They stop showing up to every event. They stop answering every call. They stop entertaining things that don't align with their vision because they understand that every yes to a distraction is a no to their future. So I got to ask you, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice so you can finally step into the life you were meant to live? Because you can't have both. You can't be disciplined and distracted at the same time. You can't chase your dreams and chase every notification that pops up on your phone. One of them has to go. And if you're serious, if you really want this, then you already know which one it needs to be. Some of you are so close to breaking through, so close to changing everything. But every time you get some momentum, every time you start making progress, something pulls you back. A bad habit, a toxic relationship, a lazy decision. And then you wonder why it feels like you're stuck, like you're moving in slow motion. It's because you're fighting against your own distractions. Let me tell you something, the moment you stop fighting against yourself, everything changes. The moment you stop letting the little things steal your time, steal your energy, steal your mind, that's when you become dangerous. That's when you start seeing results. That's when your focus gets so sharp, so unshakable, that nothing can pull you off your path. So the choice is yours. Stay distracted, stay stuck, or lock in. Get disciplined and change your locking point. Most people spend their whole lives chasing approval. They shape their actions around what other people will think. They hold back their potential because they're afraid of judgment. They play it safe because they don't want to step on any toes. But let me tell you something, if you spend your life trying to be like, you will never be great. You weren't put on this earth to be accepted by everybody. You weren't designed to fit into every crowd, to please every person, to meet every expectation that people throw at you. The truth is, the moment you start focusing on your growth, the moment you start leveling up, some people are going to have a problem with it. And that's not your issue, that's theirs. See, when you start taking yourself seriously, when you start breaking old patterns, when you start becoming disciplined, some people are going to feel uncomfortable because your growth exposes their stagnation. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your focus forces them to confront the fact that they've been wasting time. And instead of leveling up with you, instead of supporting your journey, some people will try to pull you back. Not because they hate you, not because they want to see you fail, but because your success challenges their excuses. You ever notice how the moment you decide to change, people suddenly have something to say? The moment you start eating right, people start questioning your diet. The moment you start waking up early, they say, why are you doing all that? The moment you start focusing on yourself, they say, oh, you think you're better than us now. No, you're just better than the old version of you. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. The strongest minds don't seek approval, they seek purpose. The people who make history, who shift industries, who change lives, they aren't worried about being liked. They're worried about making an impact. They're worried about fulfilling their calling. They're worried about becoming the best version of themselves. And if some people don't understand that, if some people walk away because of that, then let them go. Because here's the reality, not everyone is meant to come with you. Not everyone is meant to understand your vision. And that's okay. Your job is not to convince people to believe in you. Your job is to believe in yourself so much that their opinions become irrelevant. Too many people are stuck because they're waiting for permission to be great. They're waiting for someone to validate their dreams, to approve their goals, to say, yes, you're on the right path. But let me ask you, what if that approval never comes? What if nobody claps for you? What if nobody supports you? Are you going to stop? Because real success comes when you learn to keep moving forward, even when nobody is watching, even when nobody believes in you, even when people are talking behind your back. That's the level of commitment you need. That's the level of focus it takes to break through. See, at some point, you have to decide, do you want to be like, or do you want to be successful? Because you can't have both. The higher you climb, the more people are going to have opinions. The more you grow, the more you'll attract criticism. And if you let that shake you, if you let that pull you off track, you'll never reach your full potential. You've got to get to a place where you stop needing external validation, where you don't care if people don't understand your grind, where you don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Because the moment you do that, the moment you fully own who you are and what you're building, you become unstoppable. You keep saying you want to be great. You keep saying you want to be successful. You keep saying you want to change your life, but every time I look up, you're hesitating. You're overthinking. You're waiting for the perfect moment. You're waiting until you feel ready. Let me tell you something. There is no perfect moment. There is no ready. If you keep waiting for everything to feel right before you move, you're never going to move. And if you never move, you'll never grow. See, most people stay stuck not because they don't have the ability, but because they refuse to take action. They live in their heads. They keep planning, they keep thinking, they keep making excuses, but they never execute. And the crazy part is they already know what they need to do. They already know the steps they should be taking, but they let fear, doubt, and uncertainty keep them paralyzed. You ever wonder why some people seem to succeed while others stay stuck in the same place for years? It's not because they're smarter. It's not because they have more talent. It's because they move. They take action. They stop thinking about what might go wrong and they focus on what could go right. They stop waiting for approval and they start creating opportunities. They stop hesitating. They take the first step even when they don't have all the answers. And that's the key. You don't have to have all the answers to start. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. But if you refuse to move until everything is perfect, you'll never get anywhere. Perfection is an illusion. You learn as you go. You grow through the process. The experience you need to succeed will only come when you step out and start doing the work. Most people never reach their full potential because they never give themselves permission to fail. They're so afraid of making mistakes, of looking foolish, of not getting it right the first time that they never even try. But failure isn't the enemy. Failure is a teacher. Failure is part of the process. You don't build strength by avoiding the gym. You build it by pushing through resistance. And in life, resistance comes in the form of obstacles, setbacks, and challenges. You have to rewire your mindset. Stop seeing mistakes as proof that you're not good enough and start seeing them as proof that you're in the game. Because the only people who never fail are the ones who never try. The only people who never struggle are the ones who never take risks. And if you want to be great, if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to get in the ring, take some hits, and keep moving forward. You keep looking at successful people and thinking they have something you don't. You think they were lucky, they were gifted. They had some secret advantage. But the truth is, the only difference between them and you was that they took action when others hesitated. They weren't afraid to look foolish. They weren't afraid to fail in front of people. They weren't afraid to start before they were ready. And that's what you need to do. Stop overthinking. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop telling yourself you said tomorrow, next week, next month. Start now. Because if you don't, you're going to wake up a year from now in the exact same place, wondering why nothing changed. And it won't be because you weren't capable. It'll be because you didn't move when you had the chance. So the question is, how much longer are you going to wait? How much longer are you going to talk about what you want instead of going after? Because at some point you have to stop planning and start executing. At some point you have to stop waiting and start living.